This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Friday, July 12th, 2024. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
President Biden has used a rare solo news conference to forcefully defend both his accomplishments and his decision to stay in the race. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
The state of Vermont has been hit by heavy rain and flooding due to the remnants of Hurricane Beryl. I'm Jennifer King.
Republicans ready to arrive en masse in Milwaukee as the GOP convention is just days away. I'm Steve Futterman.
Donald Trump's lawyers are asking a New York judge to overturn his hush money conviction. I'm Jackie Quinn.
On Wall Street, earnings season begins and inflation's at a 3-year low. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
Testimony in actor Alec Baldwin's involuntary manslaughter trial on Thursday involved law enforcement personnel. I'm Archie Zaraletta with the latest.
All ahead on America in the Morning. President Biden holds a rare solo news conference. He defends his record and his decision to stay in the race. Correspondent Sagar Meghani reports.
The president says he's not in this for his legacy.
I'm in this to complete the job I started.
And despite growing Democrat calls for him to step aside, he insists the American people back him.
I believe I'm the best qualified to govern. And I think I'm the best qualified to win. But there are other people who could beat Trump too. But it's awful start from scratch.
Still, the president notes he does need to allay fears about his age and fitness.
The best way to assure them is the way I assure myself. And that is, am I getting the job done? Am I getting the job done? Can you name me somebody who's got more major piece of legislation passed in 3.5 years? I created 2,000 jobs just last week. So if I slow down, I can't get the job done. That's a sign that I shouldn't be doing it. But there's no indication of that yet. None.
But he did make 2 flubs within 2 hours, answering the news conference's first question about Vice President Harris.
I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there.
And earlier at a NATO summit event with Ukraine's leader.
I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. He's going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway, Mr. President.
I'm better.
You are a hell of a lot better.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
The remnants of Hurricane Beryl caused flooding in Vermont as the storm swept across the Northeastern U.S. Jennifer King reports.
Water rescues and road washouts were reported. More than half a dozen bridges are knocked out, and some communities are under evacuation orders. Officials said there was 1 death, a male from Peacham, Vermont. Residents of a 6-unit apartment building in Plainfield had only 15 minutes to leave before the entire structure was swept away.
In the Great Brook, which runs into the Winooski River, I live on the 2nd floor, and the water was coming up pretty far, so I knew that it was time to leave with my dog.
Plainfield evacuee Hillary Conant said she also had to flee rising waters a year ago.
It's like the same thing is happening over again.
In Moortown, Town Board Chairman Tom Martin says workers are hoping to install a temporary bridge on the town's main access road, and that a school that sustained damage last year was once again inundated with floodwaters. I'm Jennifer King.
The Republican National Convention is scheduled to start next week, and President Trump has said he plans to unveil his 2024 running mate there. Correspondent Steve Futterman is following details.
Republicans are set to arrive in Milwaukee this weekend. On Monday, the GOP convention begins. There isn't much mystery. We know that Donald Trump will be the presidential nominee. The one remaining question, who will he select as his vice presidential running mate? There have been numerous reports that 3 people are under consideration: Florida Senator Marco Rubio, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, and North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum. Trump this week has been doing some campaigning.
The Republican Party is bigger, stronger, more vibrant, and more united than ever before.
On Tuesday, he was in Florida. At one of his stops was Marco Rubio, perhaps auditioning for the VP job.
I hear these guys on TV saying if Trump becomes the president, he's going to become a dictator.
and he's going to go after his opponents. This is from the people who are going after their opponents and putting their political opponents in jail every single day.
Like most recent political conventions, both Democratic and Republican, this week's events in Milwaukee will be part coronation, part infomercial. The goal is to present to the American people the GOP view. At some point, we will find out who Donald Trump's choice is for a running mate. Then next Thursday night, the culmination, and probably the largest audience, the Trump acceptance speech. I'm Steve Futterman.
New orders from the Israeli military when America in the Morning returns after these messages. The nation's forecast on America in the Morning. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
The most active zone today will be the eastern United States, where a stationary boundary once associated with energy from Beryl remains over the region with no push to kick it out to the sea. Numerous showers and some heavy, perhaps flooding downpours can be expected today and into at least early Saturday, with uncomfortable humidity in store for many. Parts of eastern North Carolina to the Delmarva Peninsula may even stay wet through Saturday afternoon before more spotty activity on Sunday. A separate zone where showers and thunderstorms may fire up extends from Missouri into lower Michigan today. Here, a weaker storm will be the focus for wet weather from the eastern Great Lakes to the Midwest, with areas from northern Illinois through Minnesota looking dry instead. Additional showers related to this feature can stretch from the eastern Great Lakes through northern New England, but most rain should be fairly light when compared to the heavier rainfall observed in parts of Vermont and New Hampshire earlier this week. For the west, extreme heat remains in place as high pressure continues to sit over the southwest, bringing more dangerous, potentially record-threatening heat from California and Arizona and Utah and even parts of Idaho and Montana through today. This high pressure will start to make its way more toward the east as the weekend wears on, bringing highs over the century mark to more of the northern and southern plains. These temperatures should reach parts of the southeast by Saturday, but some areas of California may have the heat begin to relax by then. The only potential break from sunny skies and the major heat comes in the form of some monsoon thunderstorm activity from the southwest through some areas of the Rockies. Afternoon storms farther east can be focused from Florida westward along the Gulf Coast. In San Francisco, expect a nice day with sunshine and a high near 70. In Jacksonville, Florida, it will be hot with a spotty afternoon thunderstorm with a high of 97. AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember, follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. In the wake of the Supreme Court ruling on presidential immunity, former President Trump's lawyers are trying to overturn his conviction in New York. Correspondent Jackie Quinn is following the case.
Defense lawyers for former President Donald Trump have written that now that the Supreme Court ruled that Trump enjoys some immunity from criminal prosecution, the judge in his New York hush money case should overturn his conviction and end the criminal proceedings. They've also blasted prosecutors for rushing to put the former president on trial instead of awaiting guidance from the U.S. Supreme Court. Trump was to be sentenced on the charge this week, but the trial judge, Juan Merchan, has delayed sentencing to determine if the felony conviction should be set aside. He says he'll issue his ruling September 6th. I'm Jackie Quinn.
The Israeli military is ordering all Palestinians to leave Gaza's largest city. Correspondent Charles de Ledesma has the latest.
Israel's ordering all Palestinians to leave Gaza City in the north as bombardments escalate throughout the besieged territory. Israel says it's pursuing Hamas fighters who are regrouping in parts of Gaza that had been targeted earlier in the war. Israel's heavy strikes throughout Gaza in recent days, which have killed dozens of people, could be aimed at increasing pressure on Hamas during negotiations for a ceasefire. US, Egyptian and Qatari mediators are meeting with Israeli officials in Qatar for talks trying to push through a deal. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
Union bigwig in the pokey when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. The Business Report is sponsored by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments takes a disciplined approach with investing, helping clients navigate volatile markets. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. With the Friday Report, here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after a mixed day for stocks. The Dow was higher, but the S&P 500 index and the NASDAQ each sold off. NVIDIA was down 5%. And something interesting happened.
Most interesting day of the year. The Russell 2000 up 3.6% with the S&P down. Do you know the last time that actually happened? October 2008. That's how rare that is. This is not negative on tech. This is positive on diversification. That's the way to look at this.
Right. CNBC's Bob Pisani. Investors are on hold for the start of earnings season this morning. Big banks like J.P. Morgan Chase and Citigroup will report.
There's going to be hope. There's going to be despair. There's going to be beats. There's going to be misses. And you just have to take it. It's probably not all good and probably not all bad. And that is what this earnings season is about. And it's just fantastic to me. We're finally going to rotate away from everything's been all economic, really. And I'm really excited for Q2 to start ramping up here in earnings season.
G Squared's Victoria Green on CNBC. Inflation down again in June. It's now sitting at about 3%. That's way down from more than 9% 2 years ago.
Core inflation is the lowest in 3 years.
National Economic Council's Lael Brainerd on CNBC. Mortgage rates with a dramatic drop on that CPI report from more than 7% yesterday to 6.85% in one day for a 30-year fixed home loan, according to Mortgage News Daily.
Well, for some, the fountain of youth doesn't exist there. They're leaving Florida.
You know, some actually are. A few years ago, there was a big move for wealthy people, especially, to leave high-tax states and move to low-tax states like Florida. But that is starting to turn around. States like Florida are facing a home insurance crisis, record heat, and a forecast this year for a record hurricane season.
More than 250,000 taxpayers moved out of New York and California in 2022. That's according to the latest migration data from the IRS. The big winner was, yes, Florida, which added $36 billion in income in 2022. Texas gained $10 billion. But out-migration is slowing, down about 10% for both states. And the flows from Florida to New York, those were up, suggesting taxpayers are coming back.
CNBC's Robert Frank. On today's watch list, earnings season begins this morning. We get quarterly results from banks like J.P. Morgan Chase and Citigroup. We find out the latest on inflation at the wholesale level today with the PPI, the Producer Price Index. We get a fresh read on consumer sentiment. The American Century Celebrity Golf Tournament begins in Lake Tahoe. New in theaters, Gold Dove's horror film Lumina, Neon's horror thriller Long Legs, and Columbia's comedy romance Fly Me to the Moon.
Resurrecting the Sinatra title, CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. Well, a Philadelphia labor union power broker will spend some time behind bars. Correspondent Shelley Adler has the story.
A former Philadelphia labor leader who wielded significant clout in Pennsylvania politics has been sentenced to 6 years in prison. He bribed a city council member and stole nearly $600,000 from the union he ran for nearly 30 years. John Doherty was convicted in December of embezzlement, conspiracy, and dozens of other counts in a 2019 indictment. He was accused of using the politically powerful electricians union as his personal bank account and a source for jobs for family and friends. I'm Shelley Adler.
When we return on America in the Morning, a Holocaust survivor's new lease on life after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Welcome back. The cause of death of a former Little League World Series hero who realized his dream playing Major League Baseball has been revealed. Correspondent Gethin Coolbaugh has details.
Sean Burroughs, a two-time Little League World Series champion who played in the major leagues before substance abuse interrupted his career, died of fentanyl intoxication. That's according to the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Office, which released its findings this week. The medical examiner says Burroughs' death on May 9th near his car at a park in Long Beach, California, was accidental. The Long Beach Fire Department responded to the scene on a report of a person in full cardiac arrest in the parking lot, but their life-saving measures were unsuccessful. I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
Law enforcement officials took to the stand as part of Alec Baldwin's involuntary manslaughter trial. Correspondent Margie Zaraletta reports.
Alec Baldwin's attorney, Alex Spiro, questioned crime scene technician Marissa Popple, suggesting the investigation of the crime scene was shoddy and rushed so that police and prosecutors could focus on Baldwin. Popple denied that. Detective Alexandria Hancock testified about her investigation involving ammunition on the set. Hancock is expected to return for more testimony on Friday. Baldwin is charged in the death of cinematographer Helena Hutchins, who was shot when Baldwin pointed a gun at her during a scene setup and it went off. I'm Margie Zaraletta.
A man who was orphaned during the Holocaust is getting a second chance with his family. Correspondent Haya Panjwani has the story.
He's giving us the satisfaction of knowing that he has a family that he never knew existed and has been wanting for 83 years.
That's Anne Madin Hellman. She's waiting at the airport for Shalom Koreh. Genealogist Daniel Horowitz with MyHeritage says the two are related.
And did a DNA test and had it on MyHeritage. Shalom had a DNA test on MyHeritage. MyHeritage found out that they're second cousins.
Shalom never knew his real name or his birthday. As a toddler, he was saved from the streets of Warsaw during World War II, as the rest of his family was murdered by Nazis in Poland.
He was an orphan. He never met, not the parents, any kind of other member of his family. He was alone in this world.
Koreh, who mostly speaks Hebrew, couldn't stop smiling, even though he didn't quite understand the camera crews, conversations, or all the signs and hubbub. Hellman said she was not only gaining a new relative, but she was glad that he finally knew some of his extended family after a lifetime. I'm Haya Panjwani.
America in the Morning for Friday, July 12th, 2024 is produced by Alexander Hinton. Our senior producer, Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
President Biden in his first news conference since last month's debate with President Trump. I'm Bob Brown. I'll have that story.
U.S. inflation cools again, potentially paving the way for the Fed to cut interest rates soon. I'm Shelley Adler.
The parents of a 10th grader who died last year after ingesting a super spicy chip have filed a wrongful death lawsuit. I'm Jackie Quinn.
6 baseball shutouts and a new Wimbledon champ coming this weekend. I'm Robert Workman.
Actor Shelley Duvall has died of complications from diabetes at her home in Blanco, Texas. I'm Margie Zaraletta with a look at her life.
Back after these messages. Another hot summer Friday. This is America in the Morning with the forecast. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
From today into the weekend, a large area of strong high pressure will remain in place over the Four Corners region. As the weekend progresses, this feature will continue to expand into the western plains before starting to shift eastward along the southern tier of the nation. This will mean that not only can we expect another day of blistering heat from interior sections of California and Arizona into southern Nevada and Idaho today, but triple-digit heat can reach more places in the Dakotas, Nebraska, Kansas, and the southern plains as well before getting into the southeast by Saturday, when some parts of California may finally get a break from the worst of it. Otherwise, the only real reprieve from the blazing sunshine will come in the form of any monsoon thunderstorms that can pop up in the afternoon from the southwest and along parts of the northern and central Rockies, as well as the more typical afternoon thunderstorms that can develop from South Texas, along the Gulf Coast, and into much of Florida. A more active zone today will be the East Coast, where a frontal zone left behind by what was once Hurricane Beryl will continue to hang over the area. This front will serve as the focus for showers and some drenching downpours, with areas along and especially to the east of the front most likely to face humid conditions as that moisture can be wrung out with numerous thunderstorms. Another part of the country that faces the risk for some wet weather is the Great Lakes and even parts of the Midwest, where a separate disturbance brings the risk for some spotty thunderstorms from Missouri into Indiana and across much of lower Michigan. Some more widely separated showers may extend from there into parts of northern New York and even New England, but this precipitation should pale in comparison to the recent tropical rainfall to soak those areas earlier this week. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. All eyes were on President Biden as he held his first solo news conference since his debate with former President Trump. Correspondent Bob Brown reports.
President Biden holding his first news conference since last month's disastrous performance in the first of two scheduled debates against former President Trump. But even before the start of last night's debate, there was trouble once again as Biden at the NATO summit introduced Ukrainian President Zelensky as President Putin.
I want to hand it over to the President of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. Who's going to beat President Putin? President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway, Mr. President.
I'm better.
You are a hell of a lot better.
President talking about the economy, support for Ukraine, and the decline of encounters at the border. Then Biden took the first question from reporters, which in part asked if he had confidence in Vice President Kamala Harris and her ability to handle the job as president. Again, Biden confusing his answers, saying he had confidence in President Trump.
What concerns do you have about Vice President Harris's ability to beat Donald Trump if she were at the top of the ticket?
I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there.
Since his performance in the first debate, there have been calls from leaders in the Democratic Party for President Biden to step down. But so far, he says he's committed to running for a second term. However, some political analysts say Biden is being given time for now to make his own decision in not running, but time is running short. I'm Bob Brown.
More Democrat lawmakers are calling on President Biden to leave the 2024 presidential race. Here's correspondent Sagar Meghani.
At least a dozen Democrats are now urging the president to end his re-election bid. Top Biden aides met privately with skeptical senators like Sheldon Whitehouse.
I am going to hold off until we've had this conversation.
Top House Democrat Hakeem Jeffries says talks with his members over the president's future continue.
Our conversations have been candid, comprehensive, and clear-eyed, and they are ongoing.
In a new memo, Biden campaign officials are laying out their rationale, saying no other Democrat would do better against Donald Trump in securing the blue wall of Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan that offers the clearest path to a November win. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Well, the heat wave gripping much of the nation is leading to an increased fire risk in the western parts of the country. Donna Warder reports.
National Weather Service meteorologist Morgan Stessman says some places in the West are hotter than they've ever been.
We hit 120 on Sunday, so that set our new all-time record.
And the hot conditions and low humidity that dry out the landscape increase the chances of a wildfire. In California, Joe Tyler, director of the state's Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, says the recent heat wave has exacerbated the problem, consuming thousands of acres. On Wednesday, California crews were battling at least 19 major wildfires and scorching temperatures and single-digit humidity. Several wildfires are also burning in Oregon, east of Portland, and southern New Mexico. Some 1,000 residents in Ruidoso fled their homes Wednesday as heavy rain produced flash flooding on top of wildfire burn scars for a second day in a row. I'm Donna Warder.
June's Consumer Price Index is out, and it shows some promising information. Correspondent Shelley Adler reports.
In a better-than-expected report, consumer prices declined 0.1% from May to June after having remained flat the previous month. All good news, says Mark Hamrick, who's the senior economic analyst at Bankrate.com.
Whether you look at the headline or the core, excluding food and energy, these numbers came in better than expected. And consumers are obviously anxious to see better news on prices and inflation, and now they're finally getting it.
And they may also finally get a break from the Federal Reserve in a couple of months.
Economists and other observers are really thinking that September is when we are likely to get the first rate reduction this cycle. And that comes in the context of inflation news, which has been improving, but also a softening job market.
Going back to last year, prices were up 3% in June. That's cooler than the 3.3% annual rate in May. I'm Shelley Adler.
The federal government versus big oil. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. I'm John Trout. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. The federal government has reached a settlement in its air quality lawsuit with Marathon Oil. AP correspondent Haya Panjwani reports.
The federal government announced a $241 million settlement with Marathon Oil for alleged air quality violations at the company's oil and gas operations in the 4th Berthold Indian Reservation in North Dakota. The Environmental Protection Agency and Department of Justice said the settlement requires Marathon to reduce climate and health-harming emissions from those facilities and will result in 2.3 million tons worth of pollution reduction. While Marathon Oil is the country's 22nd largest oil producer based on 2022 data, federal agencies said it's also the 7th largest emitter of greenhouse gas emissions in the oil and gas industry. Much of its emissions come from flaring, the industry practice of burning off waste gases, which also releases methane, a particularly potent contributor to climate change. Haya Panjwani, Washington.
A Massachusetts family has filed a wrongful death lawsuit over a teen's death for participating in the viral One Chip Challenge. Correspondent Jackie Quinn reports.
The lawyer for the family of 14-year-old Harris Woloba in Worcester, Massachusetts, has filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Hershey, the parent company of the Pocky chip brand, and Walgreens, saying they created the perfect storm that led to the teen's death. Woloba died of cardiopulmonary arrest after participating in the social media One Chip Challenge, eating a chip spiced with chili pepper extract. An autopsy found he had a congenital heart defect. The family's lawyers accusing Pocky and Walgreens of selling a poisonous chip. Pocky says it clearly labeled the product not for children or anyone with an underlying health condition. I'm Jackie Quinn.
A famous cathedral in France nearly followed in the footsteps of Notre Dame. Correspondent Rita Foley has details.
A small fire broke out in a medieval cathedral in the city of Rouen, France, in the northern part of the country. Authorities say it was quickly brought under control, but it spooked witnesses who immediately thought of the devastating fire at Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris in 2019. That one knocked down Notre Dame's spire and collapsed its roof. The cathedral in Rouen is from the 12th century, considered to be a Gothic masterpiece, and is widely beloved, in part because of a series of paintings by Impressionist Claude Monet. It's being renovated, and a spokesman for the firefighters says construction workers were the first to notice the fire and tell authorities. The cathedral is expected to reopen. I'm Rita Foley.
An Iranian court has ruled the U.S. to pay billions of dollars in compensation after sanctions stopped a specific kind of bandage from entering the country. Correspondent Charles De Ledesma reports.
An Iranian court has ordered the U.S. government to pay over $6.7 billion in compensation over a Swedish company stopping its supply of special dressings and bandages for those afflicted by a rare skin disorder. Washington had imposed sanctions on the Islamic Republic. The Thursday report by the state-run IRNA news agency described the compensation order as being filed on behalf of 300 plaintiffs, including family members of victims and and those physically and emotionally damaged. The agency adds that about 20 patients died after the Swedish company's decision. The case revolves around those suffering from epidermolysis bullosa, a rare genetic condition that causes blisters all over the body and eyes. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
A string of driving arrests continues to plague the University of Georgia's football team. Correspondent Gethin Coolbaugh has the story.
Georgia starting linebacker Smile Munden was arrested by Athens Clark County Police on Wednesday night on charges of speeding and reckless driving, according to jail records. Earlier this week, freshman offensive lineman Bo Hughley was arrested by University of Georgia police on similar charges as the team's difficulty with driving offenses continues more than a year after a player and staffer died in a crash while racing. On March 24th, running back Trevor Etienne was arrested on charges of drunken driving. The DUI charges against Etienne were dismissed Wednesday when he pleaded no contest to other charges. I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
Quicken and its big brother QuickBooks parent company, Intuit, is laying off about 10% of its workforce to adopt new AI software. But the news is not all bad. Tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
TurboTax parent Intuit said on Wednesday they will let go of about 1,800 employees, or 10% of its workforce, as it looks to focus on AI-powered tax preparation software. Intuit, which also makes the online accounting software QuickBooks, said they will increase investments in generative AI and plan to extend into new markets, including Canada, United Kingdom, and Australia. CEO Sasan Guzzardi said in a note that Intuit will rehire about 1,800 new people, primarily in engineering and product customer-facing roles, sometime in 2025. The note also added that 300 roles are being eliminated to streamline work while consolidating 80 technology roles in sites in Atlanta, Tel Aviv, and others as part of the layoff plan. Intuit is expecting a rise in third quarter revenue and increased its annual forecast, expecting a boost for demand in its AI integrated products. The CEO also said that Intuit does expect to grow their headcount in fiscal 2025 and beyond. Leave your comment at allthetoptech.tech. I'm Chuck Palm.
Friday Sports is in. Here's America in the Morning's Robert Workman.
Thursday saw 6 shutouts in baseball, including a near no-no in Milwaukee. Pirates rookie Paul Skeens held the Brewers hitless through 7 innings en route to a 1-0 victory. 11 strikeouts for the All-Star as he improved to 6-0 thanks to Yasmani Grandal's RBI double. Jake Bauers led off the 8th for Milwaukee with a single, the Bucks ending up with a combined 2-hit gem. A pitcher's duel in the desert. Diamondbacks won, Braves nothing. Brandon Pfaadt just a smidge better than Max Fried, who gave up a solo shot to Eugenio Suarez. Tanner Houck and Chase Anderson combined on a 4-hitter as the Red Sox romped over the A's 7-0. Masataka Yoshida homered and brought in 4. Manager Alex Cora.
The hitter that we envision, not trying to hit the ball in the air, just trying to hit it hard. And when you do that, good things happen. This guy, he's done it before. And in Japan last year, obviously when healthy, he was one of the best hitters that we had.
Cubs completed their sweep of the Orioles 8-0. Justin Steele in the deal scattered 5 hits. Chicago outscored Baltimore 21-2 in the series at Camden Yards. Mariners manhandled the Angels 11-0. Luis Castillo and company with a 5-hitter. Cal Raleigh went deep from both sides of the plate. If that sounds familiar, he did it on Tuesday night in San Diego as well. Mets wiped out the Nationals 7-0. Brandon Nimmo sparked a 5-run 5th with a bases-clearing double. A couple of other close calls as well. Tigers trampled the Guardians 10-1. Jack Flaherty and the Flares held Cleveland to 3 hits. Hunter Green and the Reds gave up just 3 hits in their 8-1 romp over the Rockies. And the Phillies finished their sweep of the Dodgers 5-1 behind the 5-hit pitching of Aaron Nola in the Big Easy. Astros won their 9th straight at home, 6-3 over the Marlins. Blue Jays topped the Giants 5-3, and the Rays held off the Yankees 5-4. The All-Star Game is next Tuesday. At Wimbledon, a new name will be engraved on the rosewater dish awarded to the women's champion. 7-seed Jasmine Paolini and Barbara Krejcikova, the 31-seed, meet tomorrow, each seeking her first Wimbledon crown. The Italian Paolini was runner-up at the French Open last month, while the Czech Krejcikova won in Paris 3 years ago for her first Grand Slam title. Men's semifinals today, defending champion and 3-seed Carlos Alcaraz takes on 5-seed Daniil Medvedev. Then 2-seed Novak Djokovic faces Lorenzo Musetti of Italy. The men's final is on Sunday. A victory for the Joker would give him 25 Grand Slam crowns and move him ahead of Margaret Court for the most all-time. Soccer this weekend, the Euro final Sunday in Berlin, England versus Spain. Copa America final Sunday night in Miami. Colombia faces Argentina. The U.S. women have a friendly with Mexico on Saturday in New Jersey as they prepare for the Paris Olympics. That's Friday Sports.
Extremely rare, extremely old. No bones about it. After these messages. Actress Shelley Duvall passed away at the age of 75. Correspondent Margie Zaraletta has a look at her life and legacy.
Boy, was he a genius. He was beautiful, too. He had hair out to here.
Shelley Duvall did not intend to become an actor, but her life changed when she met filmmaker Robert Altman at a party, and he cast her in Brewster McCloud.
I know how to feel.
Altman loved Duvall so much he cast her in his films Popeye, Nashville, and Three Women.
Wasn't it around here that the Donner Party got snowbound?
Duvall also was known for playing Wendy Torrance in The Shining opposite Jack Nicholson. She later ventured into children's television with Tall Tales and Legends and Fairy Tale Theater. She had retired from acting in the early 2000s, but had accepted small roles in recent years. I'm Margie Zaraletta.
Some extremely rare and very old bones are about to go up for sale at auction. Correspondent Ed Donahue has that story.
The specimen is named Apex and was discovered in Colorado 2 years ago.
This is a Jurassic period dinosaur, so about 161 million years old.
Sotheby's Cassandra Hatton says Apex is 11 feet tall, 27 feet long from nose to tail. She calls it a coloring book dinosaur.
When you're a kid, you get a coloring book with dinosaurs. You've got T-Rex, you've got Triceratops, you've got Stegosaurus. It's one of the top 3 most recognized and most popular dinosaurs.
Though experts believe Stegosaurus used their fearsome tail spikes to fight, this specimen showed no signs of combat.
It didn't die fighting.
Apex will be auctioned next week as part of the Geek Week series. Sotheby's is estimating it will sell for $4 to $6 million.
A Stegosaurus of this caliber has never sold at auction before.
There are only 8 or 9 known fossilized Stegosauruses in the world. I'm Ed Donahue.
That's our show for today, Friday, July 12th, 2024. America in the Morning is produced by Alexander Hinson. Our senior producer is Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.